Let's begin by praying that the schus of our learning should be to help bring home the hostages, protect our soldiers and Am Yisrael, all with the innocents, and bring a speedy end to this war.
Amen.
So we've been working on this sugya for a while, and I want to tell you, it's only this morning that I think I finally understood the next part, which is what we're going to do today. And because there's like, I don't know if complex is the right word for the sugya. I think it's not so much complex as it is just that you have to keep a lot of things in your head. Maybe that's complex. I don't know. But I've really gone back and forth on this for weeks, beginning from before we started it and until now. But I think I finally understand it, and I hope that I do, and I hope that I can get it across properly. And then once we do that, it's what we're going to do. We are going to review somewhat of what we did last time and move on. But we're not going to move on too far because I want the sugya to, settle in. So let's remind ourselves that at this point, we're here in the Yoma daf Pei Aleph Amud Aleph, and we have this question about from Reish Lakish about why wasn't an Azhara said by the Torah for the Isur of Inui on Yom Kippur. And so his basic answer was that Torah couldn't word it that way. And then we had other answers that were pushed away until we got to Rav Ashi, and Rav Ashi said there is a way of doing it, and he wasn't pushed away. And so that just leaves, like Gemara says, tekel, it stands. So we don't. But that was his reply to Reish Lakish. So meaning that Reish Lakish said the Torah couldn't have worded it and gotten across the same meaning, and Rav Ashi says no, you could have. And so it's a kasha that remains as a kasha on Reish Lakish, why he didn't see that, or if he saw it, why he would have rejected Rav Ashi's answer. So we don't know that. The next part, which is the part we've been spending a lot of time on, is this braita that's from the Sifra. And we start from these words, V'tana maiti la meinache. The Tana learned an Azhara for Yoma from here. So we've done this before. I think we may already do this twice. We're going to do it again because I want everything to be in your head when we move on. So Tana starts with the pasuk v'nitem et nafshotechem b'chol malacha lo ta'asu. So this is the mitzvah of Yinui on Yom Kippur. Right, it says Yachu Yehe Anush Kareit Al Tosefet Malacha. I'm sorry, this is the Yisur of Malacha on Yom Kippur. V'nitem et nafshotechem b'chol malacha lo ta'asu. It's both in one pasuk. Yachol Yehe Anush Kareit Al Tosefet Malacha. So it could be based on this pasuk that one would be chayav karet for tosefet malacha. What's tosefet malacha?
It's a prohibition of doing work before and after Shkia, or Shkia and Set.
Right. So I'll put it like this. So basically, yes, it's doing malacha before and after the day proper. And so we have not defined precisely what time that is. So I'm just going to say it like that. And I would like to do that, the Rat here on this sugya, talks about it, he connects it to what we're going to see on Amud Bet. So I think when the sugya finishes in the middle of Amud Bet, I think after that we'll look and see what the Ran has to say. Okay, so it could be based on this pasuk that you would be chayav karet for tosafet melacha, for doing melacha either right before or right after the day of Yom Kippurim itself, that there's this extra time that's added on. And why would I think that? Why would I think that you would, from that pasuk, that you'd be chayav karet unto seven melacha?
We talked about this before. I don't remember. I want to say almost, why not? Why? There's no reason why you wouldn't be.
Could say a little bit better than that, because the reason you wouldn't be is because you could say it's a tosefet, it's not the day itself. Well, I'll put it to you this way. So here's the thing. It's not, what you say is close to what I would say. The pasuk, the pasuk that they quote here is this pasuk from Parshat Pinchas. ובאסור לחודש השביעי הזה מקרא קודש יהיה לכם ונהייתם את נפשותיכם כל מלאכה לא תעשו. The other versions of this, I think, bring it from this pasuk here at the beginning of Parshat, or from the end of Parshat Yom Kippurim in Parshat Achrei Mot, והייתה לכם בחוקת העולם בחודש השביעי באסור לחודש תענו את נפשותיכם בכל מלאכה לא תעשו האזרח והגר הגר בתוככם. For our purposes, there isn't that much difference between these two psukim, and apparently the other versions that bring this pasuk is because it's the first pasuk in the Torah about it, whereas the one that our Gemara brings, it's the last pasuk in the Torah. So you might say, here's the thing, it says the day that you're going to be, that you're not allowed to do malacha, which is Besor Lechodesh Hashvi'i. So you might say that, and then later on in Parshat Amor, it's going to tell us that you're chayav karet for that. Kikol nefesh asher lo tuneh, etc. So you might say, the Tosefet would be included because it doesn't. Maybe this is what you're saying. It's because it doesn't give any other qualification. I'll say the Tosefet is included, that there's some assumption that you're going to add on to the day. Now, as I mentioned when we did this sugya the first time, in the Sifra itself, the Sifra is in the Sifra, there is a drasha that precedes this one. And the one that precedes it, I think we went through it. The one that precedes it establishes the idea of Tosefet. Because I wouldn't know it's stam. Stam, I would say, there's 24 hours in a day, and there's going to be 24 hours in Yom Kippur or Shabbat or any day is going to be 24 hours. So it's not muvan me'elav that you're going to be chayav for the Tosefet, because why should you be? The day is only 24 hours long. So the Sifra established the idea that there is a Tosefet, and learns it out from the pasuk of B'tisha L'chodesh Me'erev Ad Erev, and we will come to that. Significantly, the way our Gemara brings the Sifra, it doesn't bring that first part. And it's going to bring it later. And we're going to have to, we'll talk about it because it seems like the way the Gemara, like our Gemara understood that Sifra is that the first part that talks about Tosefet must have been a different opinion than the opinion that we're reading now, even though they're all connected. So I don't want to confuse you. Just so for the moment, our Gemara brings this part of the Sifra, and it's assuming that there is such a thing as a Tosefet. So it hasn't told us how I know there's a Tosefet, but it's assuming that there's a Tosefet min ha-Torah. So then that's how we're going to understand what this Braita is saying. It's going to say, knowing that there's such a thing as a Tosefet, then I would think if you're chayav karet for malacha on the day itself, then you should also be chayav karet on the Tosefet, because once I say there's such a thing as a Tosefet, it should have all the same dinim as the day itself.
I'm wondering, could this possibly be derived from kol melacha? It seems that the kol is not necessary here.
We learned something else from that. The kol would tell. I understand what you're saying, and it's a good approach, because the kol would seem to be superfluous, because I could say v'lo taseh malacha, right? Item nafshit. I could just say malacha lo tasu, not the kol malacha. But that itself, I don't think would expand the time. It would tell us something about the nature of the malacha, or which kinds of malacha. But nonetheless, so the Tana Maiti La Mehachas. We want to learn out the Azhara for Inui, based on the way this Tana is going to learn. So this Tana says, "V'nitem et nafshotechem v'chom malacha lo tasu yachu yehan mushkare lo tosefet malacha." And so everything I just said. So the Braita here is assuming that there is such a thing as Tosefet Malacha, and that's Dioraita. So there's no reason why I shouldn't be Chayav Karet on the Tosefet, just like the day itself. Amud Lomar, B'chol nefesh asher ta'aseh kol malacha be'etzem hayom hazeh, v'avadati et hanefesh ahi mikerav haman. So that's.
Can you switch, Shel, sorry, can you switch screens? I don't see the text.
I apologize. I didn't click. There we go. Yeah? Okay. Talmud Lamar v'chol nefesh ta'aseh b'kol malacha be'etzem hayom hazeh, v'avadati et hanefesh ahi mikerav haman. So from this pasuk, what do I learn? Al itzumo shel yom anush karet, ve'ino anush karet al tosefet malacha. So once it says be'etzem hayom hazeh, even though I learned out from some other, for the moment, unknown place, that Tosefet is Dioraita, the Tosefet of the day is Dioraita, and I should be Chayav, just like the day itself. But there's an exclusion that tells me, you won't be Chayav Karet, except Be'etzem Hayom. And I'm going to understand that that it's only going to be that actual 24-hour period, which constitutes the Etzem Hayom. Okay, so it could be, in other words, now I'm going to say that, all right, I'm not Chayav Karet until Sefet Malacha. I just proved that I'm not. But maybe I should be Chayav Karet for not being mitaneh during this time of Tosefet. Talmud Lomar ki kol nefesh asher lo tuneh be'etzem hayom hazeh v'nichvata me'ameh. Al yitzumo shel yom anush karet ve'ena anush karet al Tosefet Inui. So I have the same exclusion for Inui as I did for Malacha. I have a separate pasuk that tells me that I'm only going to be chayav for Inui be'etzem hayom, not for the Tosefet. Okay, so far so good. Yachol lo yehe bichlal onesh avayehu uzhar al Tosefet Malacha. So we'll say, okay, granted, you won't be chayav a punishment, so you won't get karet if you do malacha during this time in Tosefet, but it would still be asur. There will still be an azhara not to do malacha during that time. There's actually a pasuk that says explicitly about malacha that you don't do it right? The pasuk that we had before. Al yitzumo shel yom hu muzhar, ve'ino muzhar tosefet malacha. So the Easter love is also defined by etzem hayom. Just a second. Just to clarify, by malacha we have two psukim that say be'etzem hayom. We have a chol malacha lo tasu be'etzem hayom. That's the pasuk that it just quoted. That's the azhara. And then two psukim later it says kikol hanefesh sher taseh kol malacha be'etzem hayom aseh v'avarti et hanefesh shehi mikerav. Right. So we have the azhara. It's pasuk kavchet. This is from Parshat Emor. And we have the onesh, that's pasuk lav. So I have two separate psukim. So one of them tells me that I'm chayav only be'etzem hayom for I'm only chayav karet be'etzem hayom. The other one tells me that there's only an Easter love for be'etzem hayom. So that's what the bright is saying. Yachol lo yehe musar tosefet malacha. Okay. So fine. So you've proven to me that not only am I not chayav karet for tosefet malacha, I'm not. There isn't actually an isur lav on this tosefet for malacha. So yachol lo yehe musar tosefet malacha. So it could be that you're saying you're not chayav for this Tosefet malacha. You're not, I'm sorry, there's not a lav, there's not an isur even of Tosefet malacha. But maybe there's an isur, even though I'm not chayav karet for the Tosefet inui, but maybe there's an azhara, maybe there's an isur lav for the Tosefet. So what would I learn that out from? So there isn't a second pasuk by Inui that I could attribute to as just the Isur Lav, which is altogether our problem. In other words, to begin with, I don't have an Azhara for Inui even for the day itself. So why would I think that there's an Azhara for the Tosefet? So the Breita makes a kal v'chomer. I would have learned it out by din. Din here meaning kal v'chomer. In other words, by discussion. Uma malacha shenoeged b'shabbatot v'yamin tovim eino musar alea. So I would say as follows: malacha, which is asur on every Shabbos and every other Yom Tov, so it's chamur because it's chayav on all these other days. Eino musar alea, but nonetheless, there isn't an azhara from doing malacha on Tosefet Yoma Kippurim. Inui sheino noheg b'shabbatot v'yamim tovim. So inui is kal because we only do it once a year. Eino din shelo yehe musar alav. So then I would say all the more so. Is it not the conclusion I would draw that I would not be that there would not be an Isur Lav, there would not be an Azhara for Inui on the Tosefet, at that time of Tosefet. So fine. So what I've proven is there is no Isur love either for Malacha or for Inui during this time of Tosefet. But the Braita says about Azhara, the Inui shel Yom Atzmo, lo lamadnu minai. But at this point, I still don't actually have an Azhara for the Inui itself. In other words, I do have an Onesh, right? Because we have the Pasuk. The Pasuk says, Ki kol hanefesh asher lo tu'neh be'etzem hayom hazeh b'nichruta me'ameh. I have the Onesh, but where's the Azhara? So now the Braita says, okay, yeah, okay, got up to here. Okay, so now the Braita is going to take a different tack, and it's going to say as follows. It says, Lo yomar onesh bimlacha to gamar me'inu. So now we'll say as follows. So literally, what does it mean? Don't say a punishment for malacha because we learn it from Inu. And what does it mean? It means let the Torah not say that there is a punishment by malacha, because I could learn the punishment from malacha from Inu. In other words, the Tana is saying, I don't need a pasuk to tell me that I'm chayav karet for malacha on Yom Kippur. I don't need the Torah to tell me that at all, because I could learn it out from Inui. And what he's doing, he's going to set it up to make the pasuk that does tell me the onesh from malacha, that whole pasuk is superfluous. And since it's superfluous, I can learn something else out from it than what it seems to be stating obviously. So before we go through this, let's look at the psukim. So the pasuk was this. It's this pasuk. L'chol hanefesh asher taseh kol melacha be'etzem hayom hazeh v'havadati et hanefesh hahi mikerav amah. So the Tana is saying, I don't need this pasuk to tell me that I'm chayav karet for malacha. I don't need it because I can learn it out from Inui. So how am I going to learn it out from Inui? Uma Inui she'eno noheg b'shabbatot v'yamim tovim anush karet malacha she'noheget b'shabbatot v'yamim tovim lo kol shekain. Okay, so we're taking this idea that we had a moment ago that tells me that Inui is kal by comparison to Malacha. Malacha is nahug across all Shabbatot, Yamim Tovim, including Yom Kippurim. Inui is only nahug on Yom Kippur, so it would be Yoter Kal. And nonetheless, the Torah has a special pasuk to tell me that if you're over on Inui on Yom Kippur, that you're chayav karet. So once I know that, and I know that there's an Isur love of malacha, because I'm not saying get rid of the pasuk that tells me the Azhara for malacha. I'm just saying I don't now need a pasuk to tell me the onesh for malacha, because I'll learn it out from Inui. If Inui is chayav karet, then kol shekain malacha is going to be chayav karet. So lama ne'amar. So why did the Torah give me the pasuk of v'havarati et nefesh hahi for the isur melacha. So mufneh, now it's open. Now, and again, I think I explained this last time, right? So mufneh means when you have pasuk that I don't need it for pshuto shel inyan. I don't need it to tell me something that it seems to be telling me in an obvious way, because I can learn it out from somewhere else. It could be I'll learn it out. In other cases, I might learn out because it seems to just be repeating a different pasuk. Here I'm saying I could learn it out from a kal v'chomer from Yinui. So, lama ne'amar, why is there a pasuk that tells me that if you're over on malacha on Yom Kippurim, you're chayav kareh? It's mufne lahakish v'ladon mimenu zera shava. So now I'll say it's open. I can use it now to make a gzera shava. Ne'amar onesh bi'inui. So I'll say there's an onesh that's mentioned by Inui, which is b'nichrotat, karet. Ne'amar onesh b'melacha, and by melacha it also says onesh, but I don't need it for onesh. That's what I just proved. I don't need it to tell me onesh because I'm going to say I'm going to learn it out now from Inui. So why does it say an onesh by melacha? So I'm going to say this is a gzera shava. I'm going to learn something out from Inui, and it will tell me something about melacha. Ma melacha lo anash Elohim Kain is here. Just by like melacha, the Torah won't punish unless it first gave an azhara. Inui lo anash Elohim Kain is here. So I'll say I can now learn out for Inui that that the Torah that there's some kind of a built-in azhara, even though it's not mefurash, even though the Torah doesn't say it explicitly, but I'll learn it out from this gzera shava, from melacha. Okay, let's go through this again. So what I say is, first, I say I don't need the Torah to tell me there's an onesh karet by melacha, because I'll learn it out from a kol shekain from Inui. If Inui is chayav karet, kol shekain melacha is chayav karet. So why does the Torah tell me that I'm chayav karet? Why does it go out of its way to tell me I'm chayav karet? So it's there to tell me something extra. It's telling me that just like the Torah went out of its way to tell you that there's an azhara from melacha and an onesh, the Torah, which only seems to say that there's an azhara, only seems to say that there's an onesh for Inui, that seems to leave out the azhara. It's because now I can learn out from melacha that the Torah did assume the azhara, because just like the Torah wouldn't punish you for melacha without first giving you an azhara, the Torah also can't punish you for Inui unless there's an azhara. So the azhara is not mefurash. The azhara is learned out in this gzera shava. I'm just going to say it was enough for the Torah to tell me azhara and onesh by melacha, because now I understand that if there's an onesh for Inui, it's essentially relying on the azhara that was given for melacha. That's what the Breita says. So the Breita seems to then answer this question: where do I get an azhara for Inui? I'm going to learn it out from melacha. I'll learn it out from melacha. Then the Gemara says this is not so good because ikla mifrach. Because now I could break it down. Mali inui shelo hutar michlalo, tomar bimlacha shutra michlala. So what does it mean that inui is hutar michlalo?
There are no exceptions.
I'm sorry, it said shelo hutar michlalo. Yes, there are no exceptions. It's never released from its general rule, is what it literally means. It's not released from its general rule, meaning wherever the Torah said to be mitaneh, you have to be mitaneh. It only said it by Yom Kippurim, and there are no exceptions. So what does that tell me? That Inui is actually chamur. The whole limud that we just did a moment ago was based on the idea that Inui is kal. It's kal l'umat melacha. And that's why I could say, if this is, I could learn out from melacha, because I don't, what we said is, I don't need the Torah to tell me the onesh of melacha, because if it's true by Inui hakal, it'll certainly be true by melacha chamur, and therefore the pasuk of onesh by melacha is superfluous, so then I can use it for gzeira shava and learn out the azhara of Inui. So now I'm saying it doesn't work because it's not chad mashma'i that Inui is kal for vis-a-vis melacha. I could say it's chamur vis-a-vis melacha. It has a chumrah that melacha doesn't have. What's its chumrah? Shelo hutar miklalo. There are no exceptions to it. Tomar b'melacha shutra mikhala. Can you say the same thing about melacha, which is hutra mikhala? It does. There are exceptions. It is released from its general rule on Shabbat and Yamim Tovim, including Yom Kippurim, that we do malachot in order to bring korbanot. So it's not. So it's kal. So it means I can't learn a kal v'chomer out from Inui. So I have to push away this whole approach. And the Gemara says, I could do it the other way. I could flip it. I could say, Ella lo yomar onesh b'inui. I'll say, I don't need the Torah to give me an onesh by inui, the Gemara melacha, because I'll learn out from melacha, right? We started off the other way, but now I'll say, wait, okay, if melacha is the chamur and inui is the kal, I'm sorry, if melacha is the kal and inui is the chamur, then I can learn the kal v'chomer out from melacha to inui, instead of from inui to melacha. And what would I say? Ma melacha shutra michala anush karei. So I'll say melacha, which is kal, because it's sutra michala, because there are exceptions to it, and nonetheless the Torah gives me an onesh of karet. Inui shelo hutar michala lo kol shekain. Inui, which has no exceptions, the Torah would all the more so punish me for it. So I don't need a pasuk to tell me that there's a punishment of karet for inui. I would learn it out from melacha. Lama ne'amar. So in that case, why was it said? Why did the Torah go out of its way to give me this superfluous pasuk of onesh for inui? So I'll say, Mufneh lahakish v'adon mimenu gzeira shava. I say it's open, so I can relate to it and make a gzeira shava. And I'll say, Nemar onesh bi'inui, v'nemar onesh b'melacha. Just like now I have this extra pasuk of onesh for inui, but it also says onesh by melacha. Ma melacha anash b'hisir. So just like melacha, the Torah punished, but it also warned me. It also gave me an azhara. Inui anash v'hisir. So the same thing for inui. Of course, what is that? It's also that the Torah punished me. He's here, and the azhara must be. In other words, must be. It must be there, but it's only, as it were, hinted to. I learned it out because it's mifurash by melacha, and I'm going to learn it out as a kol shekain to inui. Of course, now we'll ask the Gemara, ask the obvious question: Ikul mifrach. What's the obvious question?
Earlier, we said that Malacha was Machmir.
Right. Earlier we said Malacha was Chamur, and that the fact of that didn't go away. In other words, the fact that I found a kula by Malacha, that it's Hutra Michala, doesn't take away from the fact that it's also Chamur. Ma Malacha shekeno heged b'Shabbatot v'yamim tovim. Tomar b'inui she'eno noheg b'Shabbatot v'yamim tovim. In other words, I won't be able to make this kal v'chomer to begin with, to say that the pasuk of Inui is superfluous. The only way I could say it's superfluous is if I say I don't need it, and I don't need it because I learned it out as a kol shekain from Malacha, because Malacha is kal and Inui is chamur. But Yikla Mifrach, that, what you're saying is true, but it's not telling us the whole story, because Malacha is also chamur. And so I can't learn out a kol shekain to something that's kal, like Inui. So what we see at this point is, first of all, in terms of the bigger question, so we don't see what we're saying is we don't understand how the Tana ultimately is going to learn out an Azhara for Inui, because I could ask these kashas. I'll come back to that point in a second. The other thing we see that we have to hold in our heads is that Malacha has a kula and a chumrah, right? The kula is that it's Hutra Michlala. The chumrah is that it's noheg b'Shabbatot v'yamim tovim. Inui also has a kula and a chumrah, right? That it's the chumrah being that it's not Hutar Michlala. And the kula is that it's not noheg b'Shabbatot v'yamim tovim. So essentially what I end up with is those things kind of cancel each other out, meaning I can't really learn how to call the chomer from one to the other, which means I now don't have any pasuk that's mufneh, that's available, that's extra, that's superfluous for me to learn out Gzeira Shava. And why did I want that Gzeira Shava? I wanted the Gzeira Shava to show me that there's an Azhara for Inu. That's my whole thing. So I just want to point out, because just in terms of the structure of the Braita, so we went through the whole first part and we said, we end up saying there's no Onesh or Azhara for Malacha for Tosefet Malacha. And we said there's no Onesh for Inui for Tosefet Inui. And there's also no Azhara for Tosefet Inui. But Azhara Inui shel Yom Atzmo lo lomanu minayim. But I still don't know where there's an Azhara for Inui. So the Braita wanted to learn it out with this line of reasoning, that I don't need the pasuk of Onesh by Malacha. And then if I can say that, then I can make this conclusion that just like Malacha, lo anash elim ken hisir, afinui lo anash elim ken hisir. So the Azhara is something I'll learn out from Malacha. But then the Gemara, that what we just did is the Gemara says it doesn't make sense what you're saying, because I can dismantle that whole line of reasoning. I can be mafrich. I can be mafrich from here, I can be mafrich from there. It's not going to work. So at this point, I don't understand. Not only have I not answered the question of Reish Lakish, I don't understand how the Tana himself thinks he answered the question. The Braita ends with these words: "Ma malacha lo anash elim ken hisir, afinui lo anash elim ken hisir." That's the Braita's conclusion. the ikla mifrachs that we have afterwards, that's the Gemara saying that conclusion doesn't make sense. So now we have Ravina. Amar Ravina, Haitana etzem gamar. So Ravina is saying is
can I ask? Ravina is a Mora.
yes, he is a last generation Amora. He's a very late Amora. So Ravina, and that's why I never send these to you anymore, but that's why I changed the typeface. You see, when I'm using this typeface here, the Times New Roman, that's to indicate a Mishnah or a Braita. And all of the rest of it is anything that's in the David typeface means that it's in the Gemara. So Maravina, so he's saying, you're not understanding this Tana correctly. Hi Tana etzem gamar. This Tana is making a Zera Shava based on the words etzem. So what I believe Ravina is saying is the Tana seemed to make a Zera Shava not based on the words etzem. It seemed that he was basing it on onesh. And let me, again, I'm going to go back. This is why we have to keep reviewing this. What did he say? From the very beginning of the Braita, he says, Yachu yehe anush kared al tosefet melacha, etc. O yitzumo sheyom anush kared, ve'eno anush kared al tosefet melacha. Okay. And then, I'm sorry, we don't have to go all the way back to it. But okay, so I go through the whole first part, and I still don't know where I get Azhara for Yinui. So it's from this part. Lo yomar onesh b'melacha. In other words, he puts the emphasis on the onesh. Says, I don't need a pasuk of onesh by melacha, because I can learn it from Yinui, and then I'll make this kol shekain. So we think that he's making it, and he says ultimately, why do I need the pasuk of onesh b'melacha? So that it should be mufna, so that it should be available to make a hekesh and to make a gzera shava. So Ravina says you misunderstand. The gzera shava isn't based on the fact that there's onesh in melacha and onesh in inui. It's that both of those psukim have the word etzem. So again, let's look at the psukim. Second. And again, I'll remind you that there's two psukim of melacha that have the word etzem. So we're focused on the one where it says, in other words, we're focused on the one that says etzem by melacha that has the onesh. That's what Ravina says. That's really what the Tana means, is that not just that it has the onesh, it's that it has etzem, that it has the word etzem. He's learning out etzem by melacha and etzem by inui in the psukim of onesh. But there's this other whole pasuk that doesn't have onesh with it that says kol melacha lo tasu be'etzem liyom. That's the Azhara. So he's saying as follows: Hai Tana etzem gama mufne. So now the pasuk of melacha will be mufne. Lo mufne. If it wouldn't be mufne, one second. In other words, it's mufne. It's it's superfluous, if it wouldn't be superfluous, I have to read this a little bit differently than what the words seem to say. This is very, very terse. What Ravina, I believe, is saying is, it's mufna regarding etzem, because if you don't say that, you'll think it's mufna because of the onesh. But if it's mufna because of the onesh, then then I'll ask all the kashas I asked about onesh between inui and malacha. That one is kal, one is chamor, and one is chamor, and one is kal, and it won't make sense. So the Gemara continues on and it says, lai, afnuye mufna. This word lai, I've seen 2 or 3 different translations. It's not vital for our understanding here. So if I remember, I'll tell you a little bit more about it later. But let's say for the moment, we'll understand it as it's for sure mufna. It just means that, yes, the pasuk of Malacha that says, that is for sure mufna. And this is to support what Ravina is saying, that that particular pasuk, that has to be mufna. And this is where we see Chamisha Kra'eh, K'tivei b'melacha. There are 5 psukim that are written about melacha, meaning for Melacha and Yom Kippur. And those are that's that sheet I gave. That's the sheet I keep referring back to. So why do I need 5 psukim for Melacha and Yom Kippur? Chad Azhara Yamama. One is to tell me it's asur to do Melacha during the day of Yom Kippur. V'chad Azhara Lelia. One is to tell me I'm not allowed to do Melacha on the night of Yom Kippur. V'chad Onesh Yamama. One is that you're punished for doing Melacha during the day. V'chad Onesh Lelia. One is that you're punished for doing Melacha at night. So that's 4. That covers 4 psukim of Melacha. V'chad lafnui l'nigmar inui mimlacha. Bein diyama, bein d'leilya. Then that leaves me this one pasuk from which I can learn. It's open, right? Chad lafnui l'nigmar inui mimlacha. I can learn out inui from melacha, meaning I can learn out that there's an azhara for inui, just like there's an azhara for melacha, whether during the day or whether at night. So this is okay. Let's there's a few things here. You know what? Before I go back to sum up, one is an azhara for the day, and one is azhara for the night. So, do you have a question? Does that strike you as funny? Do you have a question about that?
Yeah, we usually don't distinguish between day and night are one. We usually don't distinguish.
Right. So right away we have to say, it all sounds very good. You have 5 psukim, and I can use one for the day for the Azhara, one for the night for the Azhara, one for the day for the Onesh, one for the night. But why do I need 2 psukim for Onesh and 2 psukim for Azhara? Why do I have to cover both the day and the night? Don't I always say that the day is the day, it's 24 hours, it begins in the evening and ends the next evening? Why didn't I say that? So the Gemara doesn't talk about that at all. And
however, for Yom Som, we do make a distinction often.
Okay, in what way? Why would you say that?
That Som usually is during the day.
Based on what would you say that?
Actually, there's no biblical reference.
Oh, okay. In other words, so if I just wanted, you came at it just thinking off the top of your head because we have a lot of fast days that we only fast during the day. But as you thought about it, you realized those are all rabbinic fasts, so I wouldn't get it from the Torah. Okay, no, that's fine. I mean, you're trying. That's the important thing. So, yeah, this is the problem. So, here I'll show you. Show you two things. So I guess I don't have this as a digital form. Second, I have to change the screen. So that here on this page, on Pei Aleph Amud Aleph, in the Tosos Yeshanim, there's the last little Tosos of the Tosos Yeshanim. He says, "Lo yadana iba'inin b'chol duchta onesh tiyamama v'leilya b'melacha kagon shabasos yamin tovim b'chol shamoed." So he asks it as a question. This is the question he asks. He says, I don't know if you need in every place the whole duchta, but you need in every place a pasuk for the onesh of the day and the onesh of the night for melacha. In other words, on other places where there's an isur melacha, like Shabbos and Yom Tov. In other words, so what he's saying is, I'm looking at this Gemara. The Gemara says, it seems to be saying, I need a pasuk to tell me onesh b'yom, onesh b'layla, and azhara b'yom, azhara b'layla for melacha on Yom Kippurim. So now I want to know, is that only for Yom Kippurim? Because these five psukim are all about melacha on Yom Kippurim. So now, do I also need to seek out psukim, or some psukim that are going to tell me that there's onesh b'yom and onesh b'layla and azhara b'yom and azhara b'layla by Shabbos and Yom Tov melacha? So he doesn't know. He just leaves it as a question. Oh, that's something else I wanted to show you. We'll come back to that. I have to, I may have closed it. I have to apologize. I can't remember now who it was, but one of the Rishonim says, that maybe by Yom Kippur, by Shabbos and Yom Tov, I don't need this both day and night. But here by Yom Kippurim, there's a reason that I need the drasha for both day and night, and it's because it's because of the be'etzem, because this word be'etzem hayom in other contexts means daylight only. Like Yatzu b'nei Yisrael be'etzem hayom hazeh, right? The b'nei Yisrael left Egypt be'etzem hayom. Noach entered the ark be'etzem hayom, and there's a midrashic understanding that meant in the light of day. So since the Torah went out of its way to say and right, that there's gamba azhara, the gamba onesh of melacha. So that's why the Torah gave us 2 extra psukim of melacha, of isur melacha, to make sure that you know that the isur and the onesh are also chal at night. So it's really just a special thing I need for Yom Kippur. I don't need it for any other Shabbos or Yom Tov, because Shabbos and Yom Tov, it doesn't say be'etzem hayom. And why? So then you'll say, why did the Torah say be'etzem hayom altogether? So now I could say, Ravina is explaining that the Tana learns out from be'etzem hayom. He'll learn out that this pasuk of melacha, of the onesh of melacha, kol nefesh sher tatzeh kol melacha be'etzem yom hazeh, v'variti nefeshim mikerav hama. I need that because this pasuk is it's superfluous, because all the other 4 psukim I need for what we just said, for Azhara and onesh for day and for night. So this pasuk is superfluous. I need the be'etzem so I could make the zereshava to inui nefesh, lo tuneh be'etzem hayom hazeh. Now I can say that just like the Torah is only ma'anish for melacha after it gave an azhara, so it will also be true for inui nefesh, that when the Torah gives me the onesh, it must have also given me the azhara. So it kind of all fits in. That's that. Adkat. We'll look at Rashi. There was something else I wanted to tell you, but I can't remember now because I'm going back and forth too much. But let's look at Rashi. Rashi says, just on this last part, Chamisha Krai Ktivi b'Melacha. There are 5 psukim by Melacha. Arba'a lavim v'karet echad. Right, so there are 4 psukim of lav and 1 pasuk of karet. Ba'acharei mot u'parashat ach be'asor. Shebeparshat Emor v'asor shebechumash ha'pekutim. All right, so it's the 4 psukim that I showed you plus the 5th one. Right, b'chad la'onish d'leilya. Right, so we have 1. We have 5 psukim. 1 for Azhara v'yom, 1 for Azhara v'night, 1 for Onish v'yom, 1 for Onish l'leilya. Rashi says, "Chad la'onish d'leilya din eino inyan la'azhara, t'nehu li'inyan onesh." Hold on a second. I cut this short. Just a second. Bum, bum, bum. Okay. That's all together a mistake. Get that. That's for the next Dibur Amatku. That was just a mistake. Okay, v'chad la'onish d'leilya dimenu inyan la'azhara t'nehu inyan onesh. 1 for the onesh of the night, that what Rashi is referring to here. So here, I'm gonna give you a very limited perush of this here. As you see, this is getting a little bit technical. What I want to say more generally is this is a derech of limud which we see from Midrashay Halacha. The Gemara brings in other sugyot this idea of determining which psukim are superfluous or seemingly superfluous. In other words, this is a general attitude the Chazal had to the Torah, which I believe you're all familiar with. The idea is we know that the Torah seems to repeat itself in many places. So Chazal always understood that there's nothing really superfluous in the Torah. Everything is there for a reason. It's not just to drive home a point, like batter your head with it. It's there to teach me something new. Anything that seems to repeat something I already know is there to teach me something new. And that's underlying this whole sugya here, that I want to say that in this case, the pasuk of Onesh by Melacha must be, as it were, superfluous. What I mean by superfluous means not that it's truly superfluous. It means I don't need it for its immediate context, because the Torah could have removed it altogether, and I would still know everything I knew about the immediate context. So rather, the Torah put it in there to make it mufne, to make it available to learn something else. I'm going to learn something that's from this context, and now I'm going to be able to apply it to a different context. So I'm going to remove it from I'll not remove it. I'm going to say, I'll take the basis of Melacha as this context. I don't need it to tell me something about Melacha. So it'll tell me something about Yoma. In this particular thing that Rashi is referring to, what he's saying is, why do I need 4 psukim? One for the day, one for the night, one for the day, one for the night. So Rashi's dealing with a slightly different problem. And the different problem is this. Let's look at the psukim of Melacha, which we've seen many times, so let's do it again. Right? So we have Vaitalachem b'chukotem b'chodesh hashivim v'yasor chodesh. Tanu nashotechem b'chol melacha lo ta'asu. So what does that pasuk tell me? It's an Iser Lav. You're not allowed to do melacha. It doesn't tell me a punishment. And the next one, it only tells me you're not allowed to do melacha. It doesn't tell me punishment. Then I have the one that does tell me about a punishment, right? That one is about punishment. But then I have the next one, doesn't talk about punishment. And then the one in Bamidbar, so what do I have? I have 4 psukim that tell me an Iser Lav. I have 4 psukim of Azhara. I only have 1 pasuk that's of Onesh. So how does Ravina say that? Actually, it's the Gemara after Ravina. How does the Gemara say that I learned 2 of them for Azhara, 2 of them for Onesh? They're all Azharot. So that's what Rashi means. Rashi is saying, Rashi's saying, in other words, if I don't need this for the matter of the Azhara, because I already have 2 psukim of Azhara, Tinehu Linyan Onesh. then learn it to tell me something about onesh. So this is another form of drasha. Im eno inyan tenehu li'inyan. Gemara uses this elsewhere. That is, the Gemara here is saying we recognize that I have 4 psukim of Azhara. Granted, I can use 2 of them for Azhara, one for the day and one for the night, for the reasons that we talked about. But what do I need 2 more Azharot for? So the Gemara says there's an idea that when the Torah, seems to repeat something that you don't need for its immediate context, you can apply it to another context that would be still pertinent. And here, what's pertinent? If it's not for Azhara, it'll be for Onesh. And that's what the Gemara is saying. So that's the Gemara until now. I'll just tell you, this part here with Ravina, Haitana Etzem Gemara, this drove me crazy for weeks. Yeah, we stopped right before this last time, partly because Michael had to go back then, and partly because I was really unsure about how to proceed. And I looked at Steinsaltz, and I looked at Chabrutza. I looked at everything I could look at up until that, because I usually try not to look at them. But I looked at them. I even looked at the art scroll. I was somewhere where they had an art scroll. It's the first time I ever really looked closely at an art scroll. And none of them really explained it. They translated it. They said what the words mean, but it drove me crazy. Anyway, the key to it was, the key to it was that in the beginning, we think that the Tana is making a Xera Shava based on Onesh, like Onesh here and the Onesh there, which is a kind of Xera Shava. And Ravina says, no, you have to focus differently. Focuses on Etzem. I'm not going to repeat it because Michael has to go. And I think that's enough for today. So next time, we're going to continue, and we will see that there are still other answers to this question of where do we get the Azhara for Inui. That's what we'll continue with next time. Bezrat Hashem. Wait a second. Bezrat Hashem, I'll see you next week, which will be, what's today's date? The 19th. Yeah, I'll be back in Israel. God willing. I'm supposed to be back on the 25th, so hopefully I'll see you next week from Israel. Bye for now.
All right. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.